In these trying times, we must suffer through many memes that are not properly thought out. With the leaked draft opinion on Roe v. Wade and the looming decision which will likely overturn it, everyone seems to be arguing. But as I often note, as many scholars and academics have noted, the right tends to know the left's argument, and this is likely due to the fact that the right does consume left-wing media sources at least a little bit. About 1/3 of their news diet, on average, comes from mainstream or left-leaning sources. But for the left, around 95% of their news comes from left-leaning sources, so they don't actually know the arguments from the right. Which brings us to this meme of Kamala Harris asking if there are any laws that give the government power over the male body. And of course there are. But the point of this segment is just, typically I'll grab a news story and we'll talk about the ideas around it, but yeah, I've been arguing on Facebook and Twitter, and so I think it's time to make some political points, ethical points, and have a philosophical discussion about what it means to be pro-choice. I saw a meme, and it said that the real purpose of pro-choice is to give women absolute power over men. And I thought it was silly, but the idea was women get to choose when there is a baby, period. And the argument is, well, it's their bodies, right? If that were the case, and choice was about a person deciding to have a child, men would be allowed to abort financial responsibility. Equality under the law, under the 14th Amendment, based on the left's own pro-choice definition or argument, pro-abortion argument, would dictate the woman can choose to abort the baby. The man has no say in that decision, but the woman has no right to demand the man pay for her decision, right? Well, I actually thought the left would agree with that point because they seem hell-bent on destroying the family. Conservatives would probably be like, no, we want child support. Instead, many on the left lost their mind at the idea that a woman would not get child support if she chooses to have a baby a man did not choose to have. And I got to show you one of the arguments presented to me. It's fascinating. They're like, the man chose to have sex and she got pregnant. It's his fault and he's responsible. And I'm like, the woman chose as well? And then you know what I thought? Maybe that meme about women or the leftists wanting absolute power is true. The idea being the woman can choose to ensnare the man for 18 years if she wants or get rid of the baby and he can't do anything about it. So they ultimately get to choose and the man does not. Now, this is not a joke. I mean it quite literally. The pro-choice argument under the 14th Amendment dictates a man shall have no responsibility to a child he does not choose to have. He's not even killing it. So there's not even an argument about when life begins. But let's start with this. This was the meme that I saw. I'll repeat the question. Can you think of any laws that give the government power to make decisions about the male body? Okay. I'll play. First of all, yes, it is illegal to sell organs. Now, this does impact women, but specifically for men. Men can't sell their boys. You can't sell to private boys. Now, women don't have the boys. Men do. So I'm being a bit, making a semantic argument. We get it. We get what you're trying to say. I understand. You're saying, are there laws specifically governing men that aren't governing women? Because everybody knows banning abortion specifically governs women. It's just remarkable how ill thought these memes are, but you know what? They work. Allow me to arm you with the very simple answer. It's called conscription. They've tried to draft women. It never goes through. I don't know where we're currently at with it. I'm pretty sure we're not drafting women yet. And under the equality of the law, women should be drafted. I think nobody should be drafted, but I can understand why there is a draft. Actually, let me slow down. I think draft is good. I think conscription is actually good. I really do. I just think that 99.9% of circumstances, it shouldn't be allowed. Conscription should be a natural process by which your homeland is invaded or threatened and you stand up to defend it. The idea that we would conscript people and then send them to Vietnam was insane. That's just wrong. Plus, we entered that war under false pretenses. But what I mean is the draft. If some country lands a bunch of boats on the shores and starts running in and killing people and the country's being overswept, then I can understand a draft. But this is the easy answer. And this article is from 4 years ago. Kamala Harris asked, Can you think of any laws that give the government the power to make decisions about the male body? Kavanaugh said, I am not aware of anything right now. How about the draft? Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. That's right. The government can force only men, and courts have consistently been like women are exempt. So, yes, there are laws specifically governing men. I mean, we can get gross because you can talk about reproductive processes, but there are certain things men cannot do with their bodies or things that are related to only the male body. It is a ridiculously stupid question. But of course, the memes keep on flying and the left eats these things up because they don't have Google, I guess. Which brings me to the question about abortion. We have this right here. So in response to someone posting that meme, I responded with, I say pro-choice for the woman and man. If the woman chooses to have the baby, the man should also have a right to choose to abort any financial responsibility. It's still a lopsided issue as the man doesn't have a right to choose to keep the baby if the woman chooses to abort, but that's not his body. So at the very least, it's time to end child support. Now, I know conservatives mostly would be like, no. They actually like the idea. So let me show you this one. Where do we have the story here? Is it this one? Abortion ban. This is from March 2nd. Dads would have to pay child support at 15 weeks under new amendment. So in Florida, they proposed banning abortion at 15 weeks. So Tina Scott, a Democrat, said, fine, then the men have to pay child support. And what was the response from the pro-life, anti-abortion conservative crowd? Thunderous applause saying, yes, absolutely. It's funny seeing these memes popping up, these women saying, if men are going to take away our right to abortion, then we won't have sex with them. And conservatives are like, yay, no more dating culture, no more dating apps. It's like, you don't know what their arguments are, do you? But let's talk about the ethics and philosophies around the arguments of the left, dissect them, and destroy them. First, there's a question of the meme itself. Can you think of any laws that give the government power to make decisions about the male body? As if to imply there is a law about the woman's body. Now, when it comes to abortion, it does involve the woman's body. The issue that the left often ignores is that there is a baby's body involved as well. Now, in response to my post, Manny said, life begins at first breath. It's like, okay, you want to make that argument because that's convenient for you? Fine, but it's not a real argument. Life begins at conception. There's no other way to define it. Because we can actually take an egg and a sperm and put it in a plastic bag and grow a goat. So we know that the life has already begun. The cells are replicating, it's absorbing, it's producing. That's the life. But anyway, let's move on to the response I got, which is absolutely hilarious. I got to be honest, I genuinely believed that they would agree with my position. Here's what happened. The person who posted the meme said, end child support? That's effing laughable. Someone said, wait, she got pregnant by herself? The man has already made a decision. Every time men have sex, they make the decision to take a risk of impregnating someone else. And yes, that risk may involve their own financial future. If men want to be pro-choice, then here is that choice. Be celibate or accept the risk. That's pretty basic. To simplify this down to a metaphor you might more easily understand, if a bro decides to build a wicked skate ramp in their neighbor's backyard, even with the neighbor's permission, they may still be in part responsible for any accident that happens said wicked skate ramp. And also because it's in someone else's yard, not theirs, the neighbor will have final say if they want to keep it or not. Both things are true. Does that make it any clearer? This concept goes by other names, including sovereignty, autonomy, independence, and personal responsibility. Warning, these concepts are not for man-children, they're for men. Let me slow down for you, slow you down there a little bit. If I build a wicked skate ramp, if I decide to build it on someone else's property, I am not responsible. That's not how it works. Now, of course, you can sue a ham sandwich. It doesn't mean you're going to win. But burglars have broken into people's homes, gotten injured, and then sued the homeowner and won. These stories are probably, rare, but there have been circumstances where people defending themselves from criminals have been held responsible. You can't booby trap your home. You get in trouble for that. If I build something on someone else's property and it is on their property and someone comes in and gets injured on it, it is not my fault for building the ramp. They can try to sue over it, but it is likely they would not succeed. It is still, I think, a stupid argument, but it happens. If someone breaks onto my property and uses something of mine, I'm in trouble. Yeah, that's dumb. Of course, the fascinating thing here is how they are not in favor of choosing. The next person said, sorry, bud, you make them pregnant. Half the responsibility is on you. You had every opportunity to make the choice to use birth control and didn't. That puts it on you. You two, like it or not. I had one child and got fixed. We'll address these faulty arguments in a bit more depth, but someone said, now you want to make a woman have a baby and then make the man not responsible to contribute to raising the baby? I think next, we women will be put in camps and monitored, and the men will order their Viagra and now can have it delivered right to their door. Some of the women watch when they get pregnant and have doctors standing by their due date and the baby to the mother and say, now you take care of it. You won't get any monetary help, but do the best you can. Thank you so much, Facebook strawman leftists, for I did not expect this response. I thought they would say yes. I assumed that the left would be like, yeah, because they don't care for family. But let's break this down. Oh, my sweet, naive leftists. She got pregnant by herself. She made the decision to risk impregnating someone else. That's strange. That's the conservative argument. The woman chose to have sex and got pregnant. Remarkable. Absolutely. You make them pregnant. You could have used birth control. But are you saying the woman could have chosen to use birth control? Absolutely incredible. Now you want to make a woman have the baby, and then this one's just a laughable straw man. We're going to put him in camps and men can order Viagra. A woman gets pregnant. A woman and a man decide to copulate. The woman gets pregnant. The woman then says, you know what? I want to abort the baby. And the man says, I love you, please don't. The woman says, too bad, it's my choice. Well, okay, it's her body, right? Her body, her choice. The man then says, I want this child. I don't want you to kill it. Too bad, man. I'm sorry. You don't get a choice. It's not your body, right? Well, I'm sorry. How are they pro-choice again? They're not pro-choice. They would eliminate half the choice in the equation. So no, I don't call them pro-choice. I call them pro-abortion. Because if it was about choosing, you could at least say the man has no right to choose for the woman's body. But in the event, the woman says, I choose to have the baby. We were both irresponsible, but I choose to have the baby. The man then says, well, I choose not to have the baby. Too bad. Law says no. Men have no choice whatsoever. When they say the man could have chosen birth control, okay, well, the woman could have chosen birth control as well, so it's a moot point. Either you believe someone is responsible for getting pregnant or you don't. So let's jump over to this old post on Reddit from 3 months ago. As this narrative had been emerging around banning abortion, many people expected the Supreme Court was going to rule to overturn Roe v. Wade. Change my view. Men should not have to pay child support if they sign away their rights to the child before birth. Say, I understand this is posted here frequently, but I've read through every comment and it already exists, blah, blah, blah. And my views have not been changed. I am a female, I have a 27-year-old female, pro-choice, politically liberal, and live in a coastal city. So I genuinely assumed liberals would agree with what I said about men choosing. I believe that if the men sign away their rights and custody and any involvement to the child before birth, male abortion, there should be no obligation to pay child support. This should not apply in situations of a divorced couple, relationship that ended, yada, yada. I understand that. The post specifically refers to the U.S. and not countries where abortion is illegal. The top post, to change their mind. Child support exists to support the child. In the event of an abortion, no child exists. Therefore, there is no child support. So there's no equivalency between abortion and this financial abortion people talk about so often in this sub. Perhaps and only perhaps signing away rights to a child would only be a feasible option if both parents agree to the dissolution of the father's rights and obligations. Otherwise, in a world of cheap and plentiful birth control, one party shouldn't just get to say, well, good luck with that, I'm out, and casually give up one's obligations to their biological child. It sounds like you're pro-life now. Let's reread your argument, but replace man with woman. Otherwise, in a world of cheap and plentiful birth control, the woman shouldn't just get to say, well, good luck with that, I'm out, and casually kill the baby in utero. Someone responded, with birth control and abortion both easy and accessible, having a child is 100% a choice. No one is forcing anyone to have a baby. Unfortunately, until the day of artificial wombs, it is 100% the mother carrier's choice whether or not to have this baby. If the mother gets pregnant and knowingly decides to carry and birth this child, even though the father has no interest in having a child and no interest in supporting or being part of the child's life, I believe she is making a choice to care for and support that child on her own. Ultimately, this is a communist's wet dream. They're going to say, yes, 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 men, leave your kids behind so the state can come up. This argument, ultimately, I believe the left would agree with. That's why I thought they would. Think about it. What happens is the father says, I'm not involved. The mother says, well, how am I going to support my baby if I have to work? I'm going to vote that the taxpayers should. And the government will offer up government subsidized daycare. And you will get kids going to diversity, equity, inclusion camps where they'll be raised by the state. So I actually lean more towards, as more of a traditional liberal, which don't really exist anymore. In the first trimester, there are questions that I think leans toward, in my opinion, the woman having discretion to choose to abort. Now, I think abortion is wrong, but there are issues of what the government can and can't enforce. Now, at the point of viability, I believe the question is done. If the baby can be taken out of the womb and it can survive, you can't kill it. Abortion is over. You can end the pregnancy in such a way that preserves the life of the baby. I think even pro-lifers would agree with that to a certain degree. Now you have dads would have to pay child support at 15 weeks. You're just singing to conservatives at this point because they're going to be like, okay, well, let's go back. Let's go back to this one where the person says a woman can choose and the man doesn't have to. You're hilarious to say that abortion is easy and accessible. Not only is it traumatizing for a lot of women, it is definitely not accessible. For example, states like Mississippi and Missouri only have one abortion clinic per state. Okay, that has no bearing on the argument. The argument is, if you are pro-choice in a pro-choice jurisdiction, choice extends to men and women. You do not get to make a 14th Amendment argument about equality under the law and then argue men have none. So, ladies and gentlemen, we circle back to our good friend Kamala Harris. I'll repeat the question. Can you think of any laws that give the government power to make decisions about the male body? Child support. Come on. This is a law in which a woman can choose in your state to terminate the pregnancy or not, and the man has no choice. And okay, the man's not the one who's pregnant. But the government can say a man has to pay the woman. That is a law about the male body. And do you know what happens if the dad doesn't pay child support? They go to jail and get locked up for it. So if you want to make that argument, I will return in kind and say, you want to get rid of the laws governing the male response to pregnancy? I'll listen to your argument. I think the argument's still dangerous for civilization, however. But these people are not operating in good faith. I get it. Conservatives are like, don't kill babies. Simple enough. Okay. The left is like, we're pro-choice. What about these choices? What about the choice of the man? Oh, he doesn't get one. Okay, if you don't believe men deserve equality under the law, then I don't think you do either. Let's have a real conversation. Let's say, here's the argument I like to give. You're in a burning building and you're on the ground as smoke fills the room and you're struggling to breathe as you make your way to the door, and then you lose strength and you fall and you say, I can't make it. And then the door gets kicked open, boom, and you look and the smoke clears. And there it is standing before you. Which would you prefer? A man or a woman? Now, we can get into the nuance of it and say, I don't care who, so long as they're 6 feet tall and can carry 150 pounds of lean muscle. But typically, people are going to say, I'd rather there be a guy. Now, okay, if you want to talk about the true nature of civil rights and everything, we could say, what if it's like a 5'5" morbidly obese man? You'd be like, no! What you'd really be hoping for is that it's going to be a 6'5", ultra ripped, chiseled dude who's like, I've come to save you. And I don't care if you're a man or a woman, you're going to be like, yes, manly man, save me. Let's say the door kicks open and there stands before you is a 5'7", 120-pound woman. Fairly average, a little bit more muscle than normal. And you're going to be like, you're not going to be able to carry me and I can't walk. Now, It's also possible that if we're talking about male men or women, there are women who are 6 feet tall and ripped and would be able to carry you out. So it's not really about being a woman. What it's really about is you'd prefer someone who is bigger and more muscular. There's a tendency among men to be bigger and more muscular. That's the reality of these issues. If we opt for gender-based hiring, which we do have, you want to talk about laws that give the government power over the decisions about the male body? Affirmative action, where women can get preference over men in some circumstances? Yeah. How about, I don't know, rape? In Illinois, it's specifically defined as male on female, nothing else. Sexual assault is a different criminal provision. You want to go after those laws, by all means. Let's have those conversations. But the reality of the world is that men and women have different kinds of bodies. Women have a lower center of gravity than men do, so they can actually lean up against a wall and bend straight down. Men can't do that. They'll fall over. Men have an ability to clear greater heights jumping. Why? By carrying the center of gravity higher. The same vertical lift, if you have like a 20-inch vertical, and not like something crazy, but like you jump, and you pull your knees up to your center of gravity, you will clear a greater distance, a greater height than a woman who has a lower center of gravity, who has the same vertical, because when she pulls up the center of gravity, it's closer towards her hips. These things are realities. It's not a moral judgment or a value judgment or a civil rights judgment on any of these people. The point is, so long as men and women have different bodies that do different things, there will be laws governing them differently to everybody else. If you want there to be equality under the law, then there has to be. If a woman can choose to terminate a baby, a man can choose to also terminate fatherhood. Right? Yeah, well, perhaps not. They don't seem to want that, even though I think that would be the Marxist communists, again, wet dream. But I think it goes to show that people just want power. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. over at youtube.com/Timcast. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.